Good morning. A warm welcome to the Humanist Community in Silicon Valley Sunday Forum to those joining us online and here in person at the Mountain View Senior Center. My name is Ray Sunby, president of the Humanist Community. The Humanist Community is a chapter of the American Humanist Association. Humanism is a secular and reality-based philosophy of life that affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good. We value freedom, health, happiness, fairness, compassion, and using science and reason to acquire and apply knowledge. If these words describe your thinking, we invite you to become a member of the Humanist Community if you have not yet done so. Membership forms are available on our website. A special welcome to those who are with us for the first time. We invite you to continue listening to our weekly forums and other events. You can find all our events listed on the website. Please aid us in continuing to present these forums by donating to the Humanist Community. You can find out how to donate to our organization on our website, www.humanists.org.
I am Judith Bannister, the treasurer of the Atheist Community of San Jose. The Atheist Community and the Humanist Community are very proud to welcome you all and to welcome our special speaker, Nate Vizcarra from Irvine, California. He came all the way from Southern California just to speak to us this morning. We're very proud and pleased to have him here. Nate has a rather unusual history. He was raised in the Jehovah's Witness Christian cult, and he managed to wise up and leave that cult at about age 20 or so. He'll tell us in more detail. And then he's going to tell us what it's like to try to leave a religious group that shuns everybody who leaves, where you lose your entire family and all your friends, your entire network. It's a terrible thing that happens to people who try to leave. So Nate is going to tell us all about what happens to him and other people who try to leave this group. He'll tell us all about their history and what it's like to be an escapee, as he calls it, from the Jehovah's Witness cult. So we're going to have Nate speaking for 40 minutes or so, and we'll hold our questions until then. And then we will have a wide open Q&A with both people on Zoom and people here in the room able to ask Nate questions. When we do the questions and answers, be sure to be brief in your question. And we've told Nate to be brief in his answers, because Nate is a very ebullient, talkative guy, and he might want to talk on and on if you let him. So we have warned him to be brief and you to be brief. Thank you so much for joining us today. The Humanist Community and the Atheist Community welcome you all. And now here's Nate Vizcarra from Irvine. Welcome, Nate.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Ray. My name is Nathan Vizcarra. Everything Ray said about humanists, I'm going to introduce you to an organization that is exactly opposite of everything Ray described as humanists. All right, so hope everybody's having a great day. Thank you for coming out in this rainy weather. A nice winter morning on a Sunday. So I really do appreciate that. Again, I was born and raised in the Jehovah's Witness cults. I was a third generation Jehovah's Witness. So that means my grandparents first became part of the organization, and it was passed down the line to my parents, and then of course to us children. I have two older sisters, so it's 3 of us children total in my immediate family. So let's get into what Jehovah's Witnesses believe. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Jehovah is the name of the God of the Bible. And the name Jehovah is an English translation of Yahweh. But any historian or linguist will tell you that that is an incorrect translation, but they stick with it. Jehovah's Witnesses are creationists. They also identify as the only true Christians, because what religion isn't the one true religion, right? The slang term they call themselves internally is the truth. So internally, when you're at church, they go, "Oh, you're in the truth? Oh, I'm in the truth too." That's their internal slang term for themselves. They don't believe in the heaven and hell teaching, but instead believe that Armageddon will soon arrive and God will rid the world of everyone except for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And then the Jehovah's Witnesses will inherit the earth, which will be transformed into a perfect global paradise where nobody will ever get sick or die, nobody will ever suffer, and all relationships, human and animal, will be peaceful and perfect. However, they also believe that a select class of Jehovah's Witnesses exists, and they are handpicked by Jehovah himself. Remember, that's God's name. And they will rule with Jesus, by Jesus's side, who they believe is Jehovah's son. That's how they believe the Jehovah Jesus structure. Jesus is Jehovah's son. And they will preside in heaven over this perfect new earth after Armageddon. This perfect new earth is named within the organization as the new system. So you're going to hear that in this presentation of it, the new system. That's what it is, the new perfect world after Armageddon. The way the anointed ones know they are anointed, there's a select group, is they just know. So that's pretty convenient, right? They just know. God talks to them or sends them some message. They're actually not even able to explain it because I guess they lose their anointed status if they actually explain how they felt it. So he just sends some message and lets them know that they are one of them. My sister's one of them. We'll get into that in a bit. When these people know, they just know, and you're supposed to just take their word for it. There is actually a specific number of these anointed, which it is mentioned in the Bible. It's 144,000, and that's supposed to be from the very first Christians who followed Jesus to now, 144,000 total that will be resurrected to heaven instead of on earth, and they're going to preside over earth, over the perfect new system. Over the years, though, there's been probably about 2 or 3 million 144,000s. So you know, it's gotten out of hand, that number, but they still continue on with that belief, and if they know, they just know. So let's get into our presentation here. So we're going to give you the origins of the Jehovah's Witness teaching. Everything I'm going to show you, except for 3 images, is all from their own literature and their own media. So you can hear it directly from them. I want you to hear it directly from them, not I said they said this. I want you to hear it from them. So let's get into how the organization started. It all started with Charles Taze Russell. In 1879, Charles Taze Russell started the Bible student movement, and this was a splinter from the Seventh-day Adventist organization. Russell believed that in 1914, Armageddon would come. That was his prophecy. And as you see here, it says the battle of the great day of God Almighty, which will end in AD 1914, with the complete overthrow of Earth's present rulership, is already commenced. The gathering of the armies is plainly visible from the standpoint of God's word. So that was Charles Taze Russell's first teaching. Of course, we're still here, right? It's 2024. So what happened is 1914 came and went, and the prediction was morphed into predicting that 1914 was actually the beginning of the last days. So now it conveniently morphed, which will soon culminate into Armageddon. So 1914 is no longer Armageddon, but the beginning of the final days of this system. Russell passed away in 1914 preaching this prediction. Now, who took over next? Let's find out. Joseph Franklin Rutherford. He was part of the anointed class because he said so. And he basically commandeered the organization. It was still an unnamed group of Bible students. He commandeered the organization through a very crafty power grab using some technicalities and whatnot. So he became the next president of this organization that was still unnamed, but he invented the name Jehovah's Witnesses later on. We're talking the early 1920s here. So in his, he wrote a book called Millions Now Living Will Never Die. And this was published. So the Jehovah's Witnesses have a publishing company. You're going to see this term come up a lot too, called Watchtower. That's their book publishing company. And that's their corporate name, basically. And that's how they release all their literature and produce their media, which we'll get into later. Let's see here. So with this book also came his free lecture. He toured the country teaching this Millions Now Living Will Never Die. Mind you, this is 1920 that this was being preached. Again, we're in 2024. I don't think millions are still living, but that was what he preached at the time. Let's hear it from himself. So this is a rare recording of Joseph Rutherford preaching that. Thousands came to see him speak. He was gathering quite an audience. So let's hear him speak here.
Based upon the promises set forth in the divine word, we must reach the positive and indisputable conclusion that millions now living will never die.
There you go. You got crowds cheering. People were really buying into this hope. So Rutherford now knew the power that he had. Now he started coming up with some really great prophecies here that were very convenient for him. In San Diego, he decided that, this is one of his prophecies, his personal prophecies, that soon ancient Bible characters such as Moses, Abraham, Isaiah, Joshua, King David, etc., will soon be resurrected. And they need a nice place to live once they are resurrected. So he concocted the idea of creating a mansion titled Beth Sarim, which in Hebrew means house of princes. And he had it built by donations. All these people who attended donated. They said, let's get this thing built. And he conveniently said that, meanwhile, until these ancient princes arrive and are resurrected, I will live there. And just, take care of that mansion until they get there. Just make sure it's all ready for them once they arrive. So again, very convenient. And then the resurrected ones will also need 2 luxury Cadillacs to get around in. Again, meanwhile, I will use them and just to keep them warmed up until they arrive. Pretty smart, I have to say. I got to give him credit. Here we have the actual one of his publications talking about this. So with the exception that in due time, Abraham, Melchizedek, Joseph, Moses, Joshua, David, Isaiah, or some others of the patriarchs or prophets of olden times will appear, and will be glad to use this tome, which has been prepared for one or more of them in the western edge of the New World. The climate is the same as that of Palestine. The place is planted with date and palm trees, such as would be familiar and pleasing sights to these. So he actually had, he gave it a Palestine vibe, like having palm trees and date plants also planted there. So he was living it up. So also, he just talked about, he criticized those who were criticizing the house being built. The house has served as a testimony to many persons throughout the earth. And while the unbelievers have mocked concerning it and spoken contemptuously of it, yet it stands there as a testimony to Jehovah's name. And when the princes do return and some of them occupy the property, such will be a confirmation of the faith and hope that induced the building of Beth Sarim. So there you go. He stuck to his guns on this one. I would too if I had a house that nice. So there he is again, kicking it in San Diego with his luxury Cadillac, one of his 2 luxury Cadillacs, in front of Beth Sarim. Now I am from Southern California. I frequent San Diego. So here he is 100 years ago. Fast forward 100 years, boom. My best friend and I also kicking it in front of Beth Sarim. Now, Beth Sarim, it is a historical landmark. So it can't be retrofitted or torn down. As you see, it has the placard there. So me with the placard at the front door. And so it can't, it is privately owned, but it cannot be retrofitted or torn down because it is a historical landmark. And what's funny is the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have erased this from their history. They've discarded all publications mentioning this. Everything that I showed you as far as Rutherford's publications, that's all gone. I personally approached Jehovah's Witnesses asking them what their opinion on Beth Sarim is, and they all say, "What's that?" So very sanitized information that the current Jehovah's Witnesses are being fed. They don't even know what it is. It was quietly sold off after Rutherford died in the 40s. And again, the current Jehovah's Witnesses do not know about it. I've asked dozens and they never know what this is, including my family. Rutherford had quite a love for drinking. So as you can see here, he's enjoying himself with under also donated funds. So also there in Beth Sarim enjoying a nice cocktail. One more there. Now, again, this was the 1920s. What happened in the 1920s?
Prohibition.
Thank you. Yes, the prohibition. And Rutherford had a big problem with that. So he wrote a book against it. He didn't want to lose out on his drinks. So prohibition in the League of Nations, born of God or the devil, which? So he wrote this in a protest to the prohibition. Let's see what he had to say about it. Says that so-called religious organizations that of God wanted them to do it. I am certain that I am certain that back of the whole scheme of prohibition is the mastermind of Satan, and that his purpose is to use this prohibition fiasco to turn the people away from Jehovah God. Just before the death of Jesus, he instituted the memorial. Ooh, forgive me, I just accidentally clicked. Sorry, guys. One moment. There we go. Just before the death of Jesus, he instituted the memorial of his death by breaking of bread and by producing wine and inviting his disciples to drink it. So he was really adamant about it. He's like, Jesus did it. So this prohibition is from Satan because he loved his alcohol. So in the end, he had some Jehovah's Witness minions smuggling alcohol from him, from Canada to him and from Mexico to him. So he still got his way, you know, because he was a wealthy man. So yeah, he got it done one way or another, but he did not like that prohibition. Now we're going to go into our next topic. We kind of touched on it a little bit, ever-changing prophecy. So as I said, 1914 was originally what Russell predicted as Armageddon, but then that didn't happen. So that was the beginning of the end. So Rutherford, he predicted 1925. That's why he had Beth Sarim built, and that did not happen. So the most recent one was 1975, and there was actually at the conventions there was a mantra going around saying that in the sermons that said "Stay alive till 75." So that was the big mantra going on: "Stay alive till 75." 1975 came and went. They actually lost a lot of followers once 1976 came around. So, but they kind of bounced back. But that was another failed prophecy. So what prophecy was I raised in? Mine was this. It starts to get more vague as time goes by. You're going to see this. So what they next predicted was that the generation of 1914, so those who are in that anointed 144,000 class, they will not pass away before Armageddon arrives. So I remember this in the early 90s. The 1914 class are now very elderly and dying off. So my bedtime stories were from my sisters and whatnot were all about how Armageddon's coming within the next week or so, you know. So I was those were my bedtime stories. None of those nursery rhymes or anything like that. Mine were Armageddon and things like that. So it was quite the experience. So this was previously the teaching. This teaching has also now been scrapped because they have all died off, and the 1914 generation of the anointed ones. So what they did now This was gonna be my first video, but I just did a screenshot instead. This is gonna be quite a tedious one. They have actually done a Gish Gallop and redefined the term generation, and they're talking about overlapping generations. This is their chart. And basically, I'm gonna paraphrase it here, that they were saying that anybody born and anointed at the same time that the 1914 anointed class was around, they are still part of that generation. So that buys them another 50 years or so. You know, they got about till I'd say 2050 to still be legitimate with this teaching. Oh, and then as you see, we're going to get into later. At the very end of the timeline, there's the Great Tribulation. So I'll just briefly explain what that is. We're going to get much deeper into that. But just before Armageddon arrives, the Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to be viewed as the biggest threat by all the world's governments and authorities. And they're basically going to be thrown into concentration camps, Holocaust style. And that's going to be right before Armageddon comes. And then Armageddon comes. We'll get into some audio video on that. So who makes these prophecies in the current day? So, you know, we had Russell, who was the president. Then we had Rutherford, who was the next president, who had the nice house. Now, these days, JW leadership today, they have what's called the governing body. It fluctuates between 6 and 9 people, always 6 and 9 men, always. Women are not allowed to have leadership positions or any say really in the Jehovah's Witness organization. So it's between 6 and 9 men, and they are also anointed, of course, because they said so. And they live off the Jehovah's Witness donation funds at the Watchtower headquarters, which at this moment is in upstate New York. We'll get into that in a minute. Keep note of this picture. We're going to retouch on this later, so we'll move ahead. But keep note of this picture. I visited this. This was the original Watchtower headquarters in Brooklyn Heights, New York. Very nice area, just across the river from the World Trade Center. And they bought this back in the 30s. And they, up until the late 2010s, they did all their work out of here, all their publication printing. They have volunteer workers living there in dormitory style living. And the governing body also lives there. Again, this is all funded by donations to the Jehovah's Witness organization. So as numbers are starting to dwindle, they are losing their donations, and times are getting harder to make money. So their donations are going down. This is pristine property. So in the late 2010s, they started relocating to upstate New York, Warwick. And they sold off all these properties that they had in Brooklyn Heights for just under $1 billion. So they were able to cash in on this property and move up to Warwick, upstate New York, Warwick, and basically kind of get a buffer, a financial buffer from this sale, so they could continue on and sustain themselves. Currently, this is the Warwick, upstate New York headquarters. It's now relocated here. It's actually a nice compound. It's on a lake. Sometimes on this lake, there's anti-JW activists on boats holding up signs and whatnot, just saying we're here for you, and that kind of stuff. So it's actually pretty cool. Sometimes you get some activism on that lake, which is pretty nice. So yeah, that has happened. And then also the governing body now lives there. And again, the dormitory, they have shrunk down their working staff quite a bit because now everything's digital. They realized digital publication is obviously cheaper than paper publication, so everything's gone to digital. If you go to Jehovah's Witness, back when I grew up, it was you bring your hard Bible, your hardcover books, everything to the church sessions. And then now it's all digital. Everybody just accesses it on their phone or iPad. So what happens after Armageddon? Let's take a look. First of all, this is Armageddon. These are the illustrations that I grew up on. I remember in church with this book, and we were getting taught. So nobody here is a Jehovah's Witness, right? I figured so. So this is all of us. This is what's going to happen to all of us. We're going to be running screaming fireballs coming down to get us, that kind of thing. All non-Jehovah's Witnesses will be wiped out in Armageddon. And then what comes after that, I touched on that, but here's an image of it. This is the image of what they believe. This is the new system, as I mentioned, where all dead Jehovah's Witnesses will be resurrected, and they'll be reunited with their families. There'll be a utopian type of environment, a global paradise Earth. That's what they also call it. Again, human and animal will live in peace. So you got the lion with the lamb, kid riding the elephant. You know, got the nice basket of fruit there. So everybody's just happy. You know, it's just perfect paradise Earth. Again, you got the kids with the tigers. The tigers are no longer meat eating, and then or carnivorous. It's just everything pleasant. You know, just the perfect utopia. So that's their belief for the rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses. Again, the anointed will be resurrected to heaven, and they'll be presiding with Jesus over this perfect earth. So that it'll be a theocracy in that way. Let's see here. Oh yes. So what happens immediately before Armageddon? So this is that great tribulation I told you about. Now we're going to get into some video also after these images. So just before Armageddon, here we go. This is all their literature. You got all of a sudden the governments of the world. We got the generals here, the U.S. government. They're going to be in the situation rooms with so you got the Jehovah's Witness headquarters there in Warwick on the screen. You got one of the governing body members there on the screen. You got a couple there doing their preaching, Jehovah's Witness preaching work. That's a local church up in the upper left-hand corner there. And you see them, they're on the phone. We got a real problem here, guys. These Jehovah's Witnesses are a real big threat to us. So that's what they predict is going to happen. You got more of that here. An authority figure telling they have a Jehovah's Witness literature in hand, saying we got a real problem here. What is this? You see on the far left there in the upper left corner, there's actually a typical James Bond villain style character smoking. So apparently in the near future, smoking will also be legal in federal buildings, just so you know. But you know, they want to give that sinister kind of vibe, you know. And so this is what they predict is going to happen. This is what I call this the Sims meets doomsday cult. And you got the Jehovah's Witness family there in the house, and then the federal police coming in to break in and take them away to the concentration camps. But as you see, Jehovah's angels, and I think that's Jesus there with the scepter. They got this. They're seeing this. So they know what's going on. You have a Jehovah's eye on you, protecting you as far as if you are a Jehovah's Witness family. So there are also dramatizations of this. These play at their church sessions. Let's take a look at a dramatization of the Great Tribulation. So this is already when it's breaking out. They're hiding in their basement, just waiting for the authorities to come break in. Let's see what happens.
Far we are now into the
They got the secret door knob.
How was it out there? It's not good. It won't be long, maybe an hour.
Is Kevin with you?
He said he's not coming, that he doesn't want to have anything to do with us anymore.
How sad. Now, this far into the Great Tribulation. Jehovah is guarding the lives of his loyal ones.
Check the basement. Check that door.
Notice the deep, sinister, scary voice as well. And it ends on a cliffhanger. So they know how to entertain, right? So this is what's supposed to happen after that moment. Apparently, I guess this was going to be too expensive to produce as a dramatization, so they did imagery of it. So there are those soldiers. Here comes Jesus and the army of the anointed. My sister's in there. Joseph Rutherford's in there. But here comes Jesus with his army to come take out those soldiers right before they take the final strike on the Jehovah's Witnesses. Again, more of that imagery. Jesus got the bow and arrow against the fully automatic weapons. So we're all good. So I think we're all in favor of education, right? And ultimately, you would think you would have to be pretty uneducated to fall for all this, right? I mean, well, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have that covered too. They're not big fans of college education or any form of higher education. Let's see. So this is Anthony Morse III. He's one of the members of the governing body. And let's see what he has to say about college education. Here we go.
Some have felt that spending time with non-believers in a university setting is no different than working secularly with those who do not share our beliefs. It is one thing to work on a job with others and quite another matter to immerse oneself in an institution of learning. We are to be careful that this system does not mold or shape our thinking. Higher learning can easily influence thinking and attitudes. I have long said, the better the university, the greater the danger. The most intelligent and eloquent professors will be trying to reshape the thinking of your child. One mom, I recall, asked me to try and help her son who was attending a prestigious named university in Rhode Island. After visiting him, I later had to inform her that her son now believed in evolution. She refused to believe it until he finally told her himself. How sad. In addition to promoting divine education, what secular skills will we be promoting? Skills that will be useful to God's organization now and after Armageddon. For example, we need construction skills around the world right now. And think about this. We will not need doctors or lawyers after Armageddon, but we will need carpenters and plumbers and similar construction trades. It requires faith to decline higher education and have the confidence that our material needs will be cared for by training in other fields of employment. A circuit overseer sent me a letter in which he described what he called a picture-perfect witness family until the oldest son received a full scholarship to attend a university. The short story is the son left the truth. The parents divorced. His siblings are not doing anything for Jehovah. We feel that all of the cautions that we have addressed in the past are still valid. However, our goal now is to focus on and intensify our promotion of the pursuit of divine education. If parents and young ones are motivated to avidly pursue divine education, the quest for higher secular education becomes less and less of an issue.
So there you go. If you go to college or accept a scholarship, your parents will divorce and your brothers and sisters will all fall off the social structure. So there you go. And so this is what I was raised as, but I put myself through college and I got myself my degree. Yeah, none of this happened. So that's his view. Anthony Morris also is he's quite a character. He's come up with some bizarre conspiracy theories himself, especially, so by the way, so Jehovah's, sorry?
If I could
Oh, please.
what was the language on the bottom of those slides?
Oh, good question. So I pulled this off of YouTube because it was an already compiled video of him giving this whole thing. And then, so I just took that video and it already had the text with the subtitles. So.
I would vote Hungarian.
Pardon?
I think it's either Hungarian or Finnish.
It's Hungarian.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Good call. Good call. Yeah, great question. Yes, and that is why those subtitles were there. This particular person, again, Anthony Morris III, I call him Tony Morris. He has some bizarre conspiracy theories. So of course, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they are very anti-LGBTQ. So you're going to hear a sermon from Tony Morris himself talking about how, I guess, because, modern men's suits, I guess, are more form-fitting to a degree. And it's his idea that all clothing designers are gay, and they're making pants tighter so that they can check men out in tighter pants. That's his idea of why the styles are how they are today. So here we go. Again, you wouldn't believe me if I told you so. Let's just hear it from him.
But like I've been telling others, and this is a fact, the homosexuals that are designing these clothes, they like you in tight pants. That's who likes it, not spiritual people.
There you go. So it's homosexuals are exclusively clothing designers, and they want men in tight pants. That's the reason why the styles are how they are today. Very interesting. Now, speaking of the anti-LGBTQ thing, so during that, during the resurrection post Armageddon, they also believe that anybody who was not a Jehovah's Witness who died before Armageddon will be resurrected briefly to have a chance to become a Jehovah's Witness. And it's called the 1,000-year reign. And so during this block of time, everybody who existed who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness who died before Armageddon will be resurrected, and they will be given that chance to become Jehovah's Witness. If not, then they will be destroyed after that reign, after that final chance in the new paradise. So Stephen Lett, this is what he has to say about the homosexual community and their chance to redeem themselves in his view in this 1,000-year reign.
Who will come back, who will have to abandon their former way of life. I was thinking, as an example, a homosexual. But now what if someone refuses to make the necessary changes? Well, the Watchtower commented on that. It said, after being given ample time, maybe even 100 years, to seek God, some will show that they refuse to practice righteousness. Justly, they will lose life in the new world, as we can see from Isaiah 65, verse 12, which says, "And the sinner will be cursed, even though he is 100 years of age."
So there you go. After their final chance in the new paradise to convert, they will also be destroyed. And I guess it'd be like a mini revisit of Armageddon. And that's after the 1,000-year reign. So that's Stephen Lett's take on the LGBTQ community. Now back to Tony Morris. He's quite a character. So this was found, a person spotted him in Warwick at a liquor store. Mind you, the governing body again lives off of Jehovah's Witness donations. Here is Anthony Morris III buying $1,000 worth of Macallan single malt liquor. The man who filmed this, he made sure to be covert about it. He actually had a little conversation with him. and just to verify that it's him. But he didn't say, "Oh my goodness, you're Tony Morris," because he didn't want to blow his cover. You know, he's asking, "Hey, what do you think's a good scotch?" He just was being conversational and just wanted to get his voice on camera to verify that it is him. And this person who filmed this, he did a very good job, because he didn't give himself away. He got the verification that it's Tony Morris, and then you'll see he does a thorough following him to the cash register to verify that he purchased this basket full of high-end liquor. Those are about $100 a bottle. And then if you total it all up, the XJW community has already done a totaling of what that would be, and it's about $1,000 worth of high-end liquor that he bought with JW donations. So, because they live completely off of JW funds. So that's what Anthony Morris is up to. I'll skip ahead a little bit to where he's paying for his nice liquor. He has good taste, so I will say that. But here he is at the cash register purchasing the liquor. And then our friend here also filmed him loading it into his car. So there you go, all on Jehovah's Witness donation funds. And this happened a couple of years later. This was briefly posted on their website, jw.org. On Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023, it was announced that world headquarters that Brother Anthony Morris III is no longer serving as a member of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, this is huge. This has hardly ever happened in all of history. Twice. This is the second time. Because a governing body member, they're supposed to be handpicked by God. They're supposed to be flawless. So what happened with this announcement started so much chatter amongst both the JW community and the XJW community, they took it down in one day. So what did they do after that? Remember that picture? It's the same picture. He's photoshopped out. He's the second from the right. He's photoshopped out. And then they have also replaced him with two new governing body members. Apparently, Jehovah did a little, exchange. And this is the new photo. But as you see, it's all quietly removed. So I myself walked up to Jehovah's Witnesses, also asking, "Hey, what happened to Anthony Morris? I'm concerned. I mean, he just kind of disappeared." One of them ran away from me. And then a lot of them just kind of give a non-answer, just kind of maneuver their way around it. They just say, "Oh, go to our website, you'll see all the answer." And then I say, "But I saw the announcement there, and the announcement was gone today. I'm busy. I can't talk to you." So it's always that kind of thing. They weasel their way out of answering. They don't know themselves, but it's not a good look for them, So they've quietly erase them from the images on their website, and they've also taken down his sermons specifically. And it's all just a quiet erasing, which reminds me of George Orwell, 1984. Everything faded into mist. The past was erased. The erasure was forgotten. The lie became truth. So we've seen that a few times already, right? Beth Sareem, Tony Morris, and it goes on. We'll see even more. What happens if a practicing rank and file JW disobeys or no longer believes? There we go. So if you no longer believe, that's as big of an offense as anything else that is on their top tier major offense. I am one of those who no longer believes, of course. If two or more people have seen you do it, or if you confess, then you are brought into what's called a judicial committee. And this is where they decide if you're going to be what's called disfellowshipped. That's their term. That's shunned. So if I was disfellowshipped, because you have to still attend the church to be reinstated. So if I was disfellowshipped and I came into the church walking, the crowd would split. So I'm walking, the crowd would turn their head and split, and I have to just go to my seat, and nobody will say hi to me. I am shunned during that time, that the entire time that I am disfellowshipped. So it's a shunning process. And you have to attend the church still to try and come back, because you lose all your family as well. Your family no longer talks to you. If you're older teenager, 18, 19, so still an adult but still young, your parents will kick you out of the house, that kind of thing. Also, typical things, it's typical conservative stuff. Premarital sex can get you disfellowshipped. Partying too much can get you disfellowshipped. Smoking weed can get you disfellowshipped, those kind of things. So you're brought into a committee like this. It's of 3 elders, please.
I've heard of the word before, excommunicated.
Yes.
It sounds like the same thing.
Same exact thing.
But they don't use that word?
They don't use it. They do a lot of their own terminology for the exact same things other religions do. Very good question.
Newspeak.
Mm-hmm. Correct. You nailed it. Yes, it's the same thing as, forgive me one more time, what was it? Excommunication. Yeah, excommunicated. Yeah, the same exact thing. So that's their term for it. They do kind of a postmod twist on their terminologies. it's how they operate. So again, it's all the typical conservative offenses can be of that, cheating on your wife, just simply a non-married couple having relations, that kind of thing can get you disfellowshipped. This gentleman was particularly that. This was just a screenshot of dramatization. He had a non-Jehovah's Witness girlfriend who he had relationships with, so they disfellowshipped him in this dramatization. This is what they have to say. So I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and as you see, I am I'm revealing you the truths. I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness activist, and they immediately title us apostates or false teachers. So let's see what they have to say. This is off their website, an article off their website. How can we protect ourselves against false teachers? The Bible's counsel regarding how to deal with them is clear. Avoid them, says God's word. Other translations render that phrase, turn away from them, keep away from them, and stay away from them. There is nothing ambiguous about that inspired counsel. Suppose that a doctor told you to avoid contact with someone who is infected with a contagious, deadly disease. You would know what the doctor means, and you would strictly heed his warning. Well, apostates are mentally diseased, and they seek to infect others with their disloyal teachings. Jehovah, the great physician, tells us to avoid contact with them. We know what he means, but are we determined to heed his warning in all respects? So there you go. So I'm mentally diseased, guys, just in case you didn't know. I just got my physical from my doctor last week. She didn't mention that, but apparently, as far as they're concerned, I'm mentally diseased. So sorry, you're getting a presentation from a mentally diseased person. Now, the shunning. Let me give you some dramatizations. They have instructional dramatizations of how to shun your child. Here's shunning your daughter.
Loved me and wanted me to come back to Jehovah. I tried to contact them. I just wanted to talk and to hear their voice. I missed being with my family. And they thought about reaching out to me. But they knew that if they had associated with me, even a little, just to check on me, that small dose of association might have satisfied me. It could have made me think that there was no need to return to Jehovah.
So this is from the daughter's perspective, because she returned later. So she's gaslighting herself, saying how it's a good thing that her parents never answered her phone calls, anything like that. How do you shun your son?
I was so torn. I was disappointed in Levi for leaving Jehovah, but I was more disappointed in myself. I felt like we failed him somehow. I kept wondering how he was doing. Was he okay? Then, as hard as the past few weeks had been, it just got harder. I knew what the Bible said about quit mixing in company with anyone who is not living according to Christian standards. But I never thought that scripture would one day apply to me.
So there's shunning your son. Oh, sorry, I didn't have the mic to my mouth. That's how to shun your son. How does to shun your parents? Here we go. Goes the other way around too.
Mom's disfellowshipping still feels so wrong.
Rosa. Please speak up. I miss you so much. I just want to hear your voice.
It's such a struggle. I miss her. She taught me the truth, gave me a stable life. She was my closest friend. What's the harm in just calling once in a while? To chat. Maybe I can even help her to come back to Jehovah.
We got part 2 here, just to reinforce.
And mothers.
Send the message. So there you go. Don't even answer their phone call. It could be under any circumstance. We don't know, both in the how to shun your child and how to shun your parent, we don't know why they call. They could have just been in a car accident. Anything could have happened. And you're not supposed to answer their call at all. Completely treat them as they're dead. I wish that was as worse as it gets, but unfortunately we have lethal doctrines regarding blood transfusions. So let's see what they have to say out of their literature here. Why don't Jehovah's Witnesses do not accept blood transfusions. Why don't Jehovah's Witnesses accept blood transfusions? This is a religious issue rather than a medical one. Both the Old and New Testaments clearly command us to abstain from blood. Also, God views blood as representing life, so we avoid taking blood not only in obedience to God, but also out of respect for him as the giver of life. So yes, accepting a blood transfusion is a disfellowshipping offense also. You can be in a car accident, or your child could be in a car accident and they have 10 minutes to live unless they get a blood transfusion. You have to let them die. Now, let's see what another governing body member, Sanderson. This is Mark Sanderson, another member of the governing body, not a medical professional, not a doctor, anti-college, so obviously not. This is what he has to say about the medical, his suggestions of medical alternatives to getting a blood transfusion, also for your infant, if need be.
These can be of tremendous help to this premature infant in getting the red cell production going. And even just simple hematinics like iron, folic acid, vitamin B12, all of these are going to contribute to getting the blood count up. And finally, just permitting anemia, just tolerating a higher degree of anemia can be a significant contributor to avoiding a transfusion. Phototherapy. If there is a situation, sometimes in the developing world or in other countries, where there just isn't access to these very focused phototherapy units, sometimes doctors can just use fluorescent lights. And if even that's not available, they can just take the baby out and put it in the sun.
There you go. He didn't talk about urine therapy, at least, but there you go. If your infant is needing a blood transfusion, maybe just put them in the sun. Pretty bad. So, also dangerous doctrines regarding criminal offenses, true criminal offenses. So, as I mentioned briefly, they have to form a judicial committee, there's either, the person either has to confess to their sin, or there has to be 2 witnesses or more to that sin. Now, this is very bad for situations regarding child molestation. When is there ever a second witness to child molestation? But another governing body member, Gary Bro, he has to in this video, he reinforces that they will never, ever quit the 2-witness rule under any circumstance. So here we go.
And that is our scriptural position of having 2 witnesses a requirement for judicial action if there's no confession. Part of the may in Deuteronomy 19:15, the scripture is very, very clear. It says, no single witness may convict another for any error or any sin that he may commit. On the testimony of 2 witnesses or on the testimony of 3 witnesses, the matter should be established. It's very clear, isn't it? You cannot establish a judicial committee based on 1 witness. So
there you go. He just reinforced it. And again, this applies to child molestation as well. There have been accused child molesters. I've witnessed it where, in the church where an accused child molester, there was never a second witness, and so they can't do anything about it. And he still goes around hugging kids and whatnot during the church sessions. It's nuts. But let's get to the good part. There's a silver lining to this, or at least what's seeming to be a silver lining. Pre-COVID, there was huge turnouts. So yearly, they have their annual convention. It's always in a sports arena. When I was a kid, it was at Dodger Stadium when I was a kid, and it was packed all the way to the top. It was hard to find a seat. Even pre-COVID, it was quite packed. COVID opened the opportunity for the Jehovah's Witnesses to do their own research, and it also gave them the sense of freedom, because it's a very rigorous schedule. You have to attend 5 church sessions a week. You have to go in the door-to-door preaching work or running the cart at least a couple hours a week on top of your day job and everything. This is all volunteer work. So it was a grueling schedule pre-COVID. People got practicing Jehovah's Witnesses got a taste of freedom, and they got, pardon, oh yes, they got a taste, how much time do I have?
5 more minutes.
Cool, cool. They got a taste of freedom, and they were able to kind of see what the rest of the world is like, and get their information too. They did the same they did the research on the things that I'm showing you. So 2024, the convention started up again. Here is the attendance. Also, from the top down, this is the venue that I attended, the Long Beach Arena, back when I was up to my early 20s. And so this is the silver lining that we're seeing. We're seeing the dwindling of the numbers, and it is true. They are still insisting that they have about 8.5 million members, but I would say that, and most people are saying that it is not the case. The XJW Reddit is gaining 200 new members every 3 days, which is a record pace. So they're in panic mode. They're having efforts to keep people in. They're relaxing rules. You used to need to document your time that you spent every month preaching. They took that away just a couple weeks ago. And as far as there was a beard ban. You couldn't have a beard. You could have a mustache, but no beard. They relaxed that. Now beards are allowed. They're kind of scrambling on their more rigorous rules, scaling them back in an effort to try and keep people in. So with me, as you heard with the shunning process, things like that, this is a little bit of my story. Basically, in my early 20s, I just decided I don't need to go. I was getting ready to go to the Jehovah Witness Church, and I decided I don't need to do this. And I just literally stopped getting ready and stayed home, and I watched Fight Club. And then was it 2015 onwards, I was more open about my atheism. And so my parents mentioned, I went to the Second Reason rally back in 2016. And I mentioned that to my parents because I was just more open. I was just saying, I'm going to the Reason rally. They found out what it was, and they gave me an earful. And then I started expressing my doubts about things like the Abraham and Isaac story. And my parents thought yelling me into submission would work. So they would just, anytime I mentioned my doubts, they would just literally, I'm sitting down calmly, and they're stomping around me, just, how dare you believe and ask questions like that kind of thing. So I had that. Again, my sister is one of the 144,000 anointed. And in the end, I had to tell her, I think you're hallucinating. Come on, God sent you some message. Voices in your head, that doesn't sound, I have to have my doubts about that, you know? Then the shunning threat started with my family. And then they did momentary shunning towards me. My other sister, my non-anointed sister, she took me to lunch, and then at the end of lunch, she dropped the bomb on me, said, you're a baptized Jehovah's Witness. You no longer believe. I have to no longer ever talk to you. That was 6 years ago. I haven't talked to her since. I haven't talked to any of my birth family in 6 years. My parents actually made a false police report on me once, saying that I was suicidal. So I was out on my run. I love to run. I came back from my run. There was a cop car parked in front of my house. I was like, what's that about? And then they said to me, are you Nathan Vizcarra? I go, yes. They said, your parents said you're suicidal. I'm like, no, they felt kind of dumb because they could have, I was not in that state. So they in the end, they shook my hand. They just went on their merry way. And then has it been a loss with my family? No, because I already built my community. I was already going to atheist events. I already had tons of non-Jehovah's Witness friends. So it wasn't a loss. I never really got along with the Jehovah's Witness scene anyway, so I didn't really have many friends in that scene. So it was not much of a loss for me. And I have family. I have my adoptive parents, Mark and Judy, right here, and they are great, and they are so supportive. I love it. Yes, I love it. Thank you so much, you too. Yes, I love it. I love it. So I have not missed out on anything. I mean, you know, I wish it was any other way, but I deal with the way that it is. And as Judy told me last night, you do not let your history define you. So that's what I do. I do not let my history define myself. I define myself as how I want to be. And that is my story. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're doing Q&A, right? Is that? Oh, please. Oh.
Yeah. What's your name again? Stuart. Stuart. You ready?
I'll raise your hand.
Okay, Stuart.
Yeah, thanks. Really enjoyed your presentation, your materials. You seem very, very.
Oh, sorry. Forgive me. Sorry.
Sure, no problem. I'll wait. If I need, don't. Okay, I won't wait. You're obviously very passionate about sharing and exposing this. I'm curious. I once heard a Holocaust survivor say, they were asked to talk about their experience, and they were saying, no, they took 2 years of my life. I'm not going to give them a second more, of the Nazis. And also, I'm curious if I could jump in another question. Was there any legal ramifications of your parents swatting you, as it might be called? Thank you.
Oh, so you mean when they did the false police report? Right. Oh yeah. So I would imagine I think they tried to do successive false police reports on me, and I think they were told to knock it off. Yeah, I haven't spoken to them to find out, but I think they were told to knock it off. And thank you for the compliment on that. Yes, I want to make it more comfortable for other Jehovah's Witnesses who are in doubt to come out, and that they know that there is a community of not just Jehovah's Witnesses, but atheist, secular people there for support. I mean, that's what I had as support. As I started going to secular events, and I already had, and I had just had. As you can see, I like to go out and do things. So I always had a large group of friends. So I had a nice cushion. I'm lucky. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses don't have that cushion, but I structured that cushion beforehand.
Okay. So I'm going to ask everybody, when you ask your question, try to keep it to 4 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Danessa. I just wanted to thank you for being here. I had a neighbor when I was in my early 20s who was a Jehovah's Witness who decided to defect. And just the fear that they instilled in him, I mean, he would be terrified and that someone was going to come and get him, I guess the devil, I don't know. And he would sit there and he'd knock on my door and sit there reading out of his Bible and was terrified. They took his money. Now, did they do that? You talk about people, donating to the Jehovah's Witnesses, but as I recall, they took his paycheck and then gave him money back to pay for his apartment and his food. Is that common?
If they are in, because what they try to do is they try to get you to have your whole bubble be within the Jehovah's Witnesses. So they try to get you to be employed by fellow Jehovah's Witnesses and things like that. So that's how they could have control in that way. I've seen it where people even lose their job. If they're employed by a fellow Jehovah's Witness, they lose their job once they get disfellowshipped. So they lose not only the friends and family, but they also lose their job. So there is ways that they try to control that. And then they reach really far. It's just like with my parents with the false police report. They do things like that, try to institutionalize their family member or whatever for not believing, things like that. Good question.
Okay, Jen. I think your hand was up.
Oh, Jan, that's you, Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Bannister. I'm a family physician, practiced for 52 years, and had a patient who had been disfellowshipped, a woman. She was a grandmother at that time. She had a daughter and 2 grandchildren that she could not see, and they would not communicate with her as per the disfellowship rules. She was really unhappy about not being able to connect with them. She did not want to go back to the church. She left for her own reasons. And finally, she talked to me a lot and we looked this over. She finally decided, not under my advice, but she finally decided to go back to the church so that she could be with her child and grandchildren again. That's the only reason she went back under duress, and she was not happy about it, but she made that choice.
Very good point. Yes, I've seen that's usually they hold your family relationship hostage. That's the bottom line. You are absolutely right on point with that. I've even seen people, because this is another threat to the Jehovah's Witnesses, during those confidential judicial committee meetings. The information age and the technology age is a big enemy to the Jehovah's Witnesses, because cameras can be this big now. So people have snuck cameras into their judicial committee and whatnot. So you get to see what's happening inside. And they asked an elder who was previously disfellowshipped, and it's supposed to be your love for Jehovah that's supposed to bring you back to the church and get you reinstated. That's when you were back and no longer disfellowship. That's what the status is called. And the elder himself said when he was disfellowshipped and reinstated, his motivation was because he loved his family so much, he needed to return to see them. Not because he loved the religion so much, but only because he loved his family so much. So yes, they hold your family relationship and friend social relationship hostage. That is correct.
You had your hand up, Judy.
We have a lot of people on Zoom, and I want you to know that on Zoom, there is a way to raise your hand. You click something on the bottom that says raise hand, and then there's this yellow hand that comes up on Zoom, because we have many, many people on Zoom who might want to ask questions today. So we would like to be able to respond to those questions. And thank you, Stephen, for telling us about your patient.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, what's your name? Because I'm
Dana. My name is Dana. So there's an organization, the Clergy Project, for clergy who no longer believe, to help them get out of that whole community and situation. Is there something similar for Jehovah's Witness people who want to get out?
There needs to be. There's nothing official. There's the online Reddit. There's some of the spearheads of the XJW scene on YouTube that do some meetups and stuff like that. But there's no official group. I wish there was, and I think that'll probably end up happening once this grows, especially at the rate that the Jehovah's Witness scene is growing. I think there will be that. I want there to be that, but there is not currently. Good question.
okay, Ray.
Again, I'm Ray. Thanks for your talk. And question, are there any cases that you know of where a family jointly decides to leave and they all just leave together?
Yes, there has been that case. The family just, like you said, makes a joint decision. There's a video on YouTube of a family who all left at once, husband, wife, kids, and then their yearly vacation trip was to go visit Beth Sarim, the house. And not Disneyland, not any of those, not a camping trip, but to go visit Beth Sarim as their family vacation. So yes, entire families have chosen to leave.
Okay, I'm going to say if, when I hand you the microphone, if you give your name, I try to do that, but I might forget to do that, or I might have forgotten your name. Emma, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I missed the first maybe 10 or 15 minutes of the presentation. So my question is that what make people want to stay in Jehovah's Witness? Why don't they go to other church and get a sense of belonging as well?
Great question. If you leave, then you get that disfellowshipping punishment, which means you get shunned. So you lose all your friends that you ever made in the Jehovah's Witness organization, and you lose your family. Your family can no longer talk to you. So it's holding your social relationships and your family relationship hostage. That's the motivation for getting them to leave. I actually approached some Jehovah's Witnesses on the street, asking them, as I just walked up, I said, "Oh, I've looked into your religion. So say I join tomorrow and get baptized, and my whole family does too. But then a couple of years down the road, I just decide I want to be Muslim instead, but my family stays Jehovah's Witness. Do I get to still talk to my family and the friends that I made when I was a Jehovah's Witness if I move over to Muslim?" And they, of course, gave "Oh, just go on our website, it'll answer it." I go, "You're right here. Can't you just give me a straight up answer?" And then they just dodged the whole time. So I finally I let them have it as far as I gave it to them. They were just dodging the question, but that is the motivation, is that your family relationship and social structure is held hostage.
I had a friend who was a Mormon, and she said they used to invite someone ex-Mormon. They'd invite someone over to the house for a cup of coffee, which was a way of checking how religious they were. I wonder if there's a similar thing for Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, yeah.
Giveaway.
Yeah, very true. There's things called shepherding calls where elders will just, like, two elders will go and schedule a visit to like a family's house. And it's just kind of, they call it it's a shepherding call. And then they say, we're just offering encouragement and just to see how you are. But it's a scope. They're coming to, it's a recon mission to exactly see that, how Jehovah Witness is the family, that kind of thing. So yes, they do have that.
I just wanted to I wanted to enhance what Judy said. If you want to raise your hand, you go to the reaction area at the bottom of the screen, click on it, and then click on raise hand. That's where it is. It's not visible otherwise.
And Colby, I see you got your hand up.
Hi, my name is Colby. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Colby. I'm a student at Santa Clara University, and we're studying non-religion. So I had a question regarding like what role that played. Lots of people who are religious or Jehovah's Witnesses, they really, that's a big part of their identity. So how do you identify now? Is it just ex-Jehovah's Witness, or do you try to like free others? How does that work for you?
Great question. So I always say that I identify as an atheist before anything else. But yes, all atheist, then, sub bullet point ex-Jehovah's Witness. But if somebody just randomly was to ask me, I would say I'm an atheist. Like, what am I? I would say atheist. Thank you for the question.
Okay, Emma.
Yes, going back to my previous question. So your answer is that a lot of people are there because they kind of were forced to be there. So what is a percentage of people who are true believers, and what's a percentage of people who just like, they have no other choice?
That's a great question. So there's terms for this. There's because again, with everything held hostage, there's the physically in, mentally out, PMO for short. And those are the ones who they're mentally no longer in, but they still attend because they know all the ramifications of leaving. Then there's the mentally in, physically out. They still believe, but they just want to do the things that, they want to break all the rules that the Jehovah's Witnesses say, which are not all the stringent rules. And then there's a physically out, mentally out, which is what I am, which is just completely out and nothing left. I I would need to get back to you on the percentages. There's a large percentage of the PMO, physically in, mentally out. The extra Jehovah's Witness movement has moles in the headquarters who are PMO, physically in, mentally out, and they provide material ahead of time that's being still only produced at the Jehovah's Witness headquarters, and they provide it to the ex-Jehovah's Witness activism community, which is really cool. Sometimes we get stuff 2 years ahead of time. I remember telling my parents, because they have their JW broadcasting episodes, and one person working at the headquarters who's PMO released one that still had just like green screen in the background and everything, but you could see the whole entire topic that was being done. And I remember telling, this was when I was still talking with my parents, I told them, a year from now, the JW broadcasting episode will be about this. They're all, how do you know that? And then I go, I guess I just was, I guess Jehovah just told me. I guess I was just blessed. So yeah, they didn't like that very much.
Yeah, I noticed from what you were saying.
So,
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Emma.
Go ahead.
okay, so how about the leaders in this religion? What kind of people are they? Do they take money for themselves? Are they good people or not really?
Oh yeah. So did you happen to see the liquor store video that I?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, yeah, no
Yeah.
worries. So yes, they use it to buy liquor. They live off of Jehovah's Witness donations from the followers, and then yeah, they're very judgmental, anti-college, homophobic, and many other things. Very stringent. Yeah, they're not somebody you would want to just hang out with.
How do they become leaders?
First they get that anointed calling because they said so, like I said, and then they basically work really hard through the rankings. The first thing you can ever be is ministerial servant, which is kind of like altar boy equivalent, and then you become an elder, which is like priest equivalent. Then if you move on to working at the headquarters, then you can be all sorts of things. The service department, that's already pretty up there, and then you can be a governing body helper. And then finally, and this is only, it's only been 8 guys at a time, then you become the governing body, which is very rare. I mean, that's, it's like becoming the Pope. It's the governing body is their popes, the popes of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Judy.
So I asked Nate how he managed to be so emotionally healthy and normal and happy and joyous and ebullient after such a horrible life experience when he was growing up. And I'm reminded by the fact that a lot of people who leave JW, Jehovah's Witnesses, are really emotionally screwed up, depressed and suicidal. Would you tell us about that, Nate?
Great point. Yes. Yeah, there's a couple things to that. Yes. Great question. And yes, I try to be mentally healthy, and the part of the success of that is because of you, Mom, and many of my other great friends that I have. So yes, sad stories. So about 3 kids that I grew up with, or 3 people that I grew up with as kids, that we're talking like I played with toys with them, played at the playground with them when I was 7, 8 years old. About 3 that this is only my experience, 3 that I know personally have committed suicide due to being disfellowshipped. Even one, so we got the 2 witness rule thing. One kid that I grew up accused a guy in the church of molesting him. There was no second witness, so they did nothing about it. And then the victim ended up getting disfellowshipped, and so he lost even more with that. And then he also committed suicide, the victim of that child molestation case. So yeah, it's a sad, very sad situation. That does happen frequently, way more than it should be. One, isn't that enough?
Yeah, this is Stuart again. So you were just saying that you went to school with those kids, growing up with them. So it makes me think about what percentage of the JW members send their kids to public school versus private schools versus homeschooling?
Yes, great question. It's not like it's not so you don't got you have Tony Morris preaching against college. He's never preached against public school, but a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses homeschool their kids. I was in like a hybrid, not like 100% homeschools. That's what's cool, and I loved every time because it's kind of like how it is with COVID now. Is like half at school, half at home. So you basically just got a lot of homework and don't go all 5 days a week. But you know me, I like to be around people, so I enjoyed those times going into school. But there are many homeschooled. I would say 60% of Jehovah's Witness kids are homeschooled. If I was just going to ballpark it.
If I could follow up, please. So yeah, I'm imagining that if elementary or any grade kids are in public school, that they would be inclined to preach to their fellow students, on one hand, and on the other hand, they might be inclined to shut down and be very shy, and there'd be a lot of potential conflict, possibly even bullying those JW kids, the rest of the population. How does that work out?
There is a lot of that. Yes, very, very true. So their nature is to, like you said, be shy, be socially awkward because of how they're raised. And that at the same time, there's dramatizations where it shows what kids are supposed to be doing. Jehovah's Witness kids, little elementary kids are supposed to be bringing their literature to school, and during lunch have their literature out, reading the literature in front of all the other kids. Is basically like an endurance challenge, you know. And the bullet, in real life, the dramatization shows like how the kids would be, like the fellow non-Jehovah's Witness classmates would be all interested, but in reality, no, the kid would get bullied for that. That is very true. But yeah, they have dramatizations with their propaganda. The child should be even bringing the Jehovah's Witness literature to school and reading it on their lunch break, things like that. Correct. Great question.
Emma, and just a couple more questions now.
Yes. So for the true believers, why do they like Jehovah's Witness so much?
A lot of it is just the indoctrination. You indoctrinate somebody to anything, they'll stick with it, you know. So I mean, my parents themselves, I mean, they really believe this, and it's just really hard to burst that bubble, that faith bubble, you know. So they don't want to hear about, and this is just any of those hardcore practicing Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't want to hear about the Beth Sarim. They don't want to hear about the things I told you about their history. They don't want to see that video of Tony Morris in the liquor store. They just turn a blind eye to it. So in ways, they like with that girl, the dramatization of that girl being disfellowshipped and being shunned. She gaslighted herself. It was supposed to be from her perspective, and she's saying, "Oh, it was a good thing that my parents shunned me." So indoctrination can do wonders to a person, and that's mainly why the true believers stay in. Just they're indoctrinated so much that they stay in, and they keep the faith in that belief.
Okay, Dana again. Yes. So you grew up with those, you showed a picture of Armageddon, right? And these fireballs from all these people who were not believing. You grew up with that. So as a kid, you're going to sleep with these pictures, whatever. How did you, I'm kind of back to Judith's question, right? How did you get over that? Did you go through therapy? I mean, because you really suffered as a kid, it sounds like.
Yeah, therapy was part, group discussions. I in my circle of friends, I have people that have grown up in different cult scenarios, you know. So we you know, compare notes, exchange things, exchange experiences, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, my bedtime story. So you know that you got that Great Tribulation where you saw the armed police are going to come in, and my bedtime stories with my sisters, because this was in the early '90s. My sister flat out said, I'm laying in bed and my sister's saying, okay, possibly in the next couple of weeks, somebody's going to come break down the door and they're going to say, you have to disavow Jehovah or I'm cutting off your hand. What are you going to do? You have to choose, cut off your hand. Those were my bedtime stories that I was told to do. We're talking 6, 7 years old. Yeah.
Okay, I got 2 more questions and then we'll wind it up. Paul?
I haven't heard anything about political proclivities or other interactions with society at large. How are the Jehovah's Witnesses going to vote? Are they going to vote for Trump, or are they going to vote for Biden? And it's a serious question. I think it's an existential issue as to how people behave in society.
Very, very good question. Thank you, because I did not touch on that. Jehovah's Witnesses are apolitical. They only believe in Jehovah ruling. So they do not vote. Voting is a disfellowshipping offense as well. You are not allowed to, yeah. So Jehovah's Witnesses do not vote at all. They are apolitical. They do not support any political party.
Oh, good.
Unfortunately.
Colby, you get the last question.
Or maybe fortunately, depending.
Sorry, I just wanted to have a little bit more of like explanation regarding how you decided to leave. So you said that at some point you just thought, I don't need to do this. Was this sort of like a sudden eureka moment, or was there like a building unrest where like, oh, I started to believe in evolution, or seeing the videos of someone in power like buying alcohol? Did that sort of sow those sorts of things, or did it just like a switch went off in your head? How did that sort of happen for you?
Very good question. So, so yeah, the beginning of it was the I don't want to do this anymore, and I just stayed home. And then I was like, then it just was not making sense to me. That cognitive dissonance. I never really had my heart in it, anyways. But then I was realizing this really doesn't make sense. So I started listening to Richard Dawkins. That made sense to me. I was listening to everybody else, Noam Chomsky, Seth Andrews, you name them. And yes, thank you, Carl Sagan. And that all made more sense to me because I've just had a huge interest in science. I mean, that was part of it too. Just I couldn't accept that Jehovah created a butterfly, and that's it. Or the sun is so powerful because Jehovah. That's literally what they say. That's their vernacular. I can't accept that. I want to know how the sun functions. I want to know how the universe works. Actually, by the way, so when I said that once to my mom, I just said, I want to know how the universe works. And my mom said, we don't need to know how the universe works. We just need to focus on Jehovah. So yes, it was gradual. And it was my curiosity that got me further away from that belief and more into secular belief and just my interest in science and being drawn towards that naturally.
Okay, thank you very much, Nathan. It's a great talk.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you all for attending. Thank you very much.
Shunning.